Welcome to the Wine Nirvana podcast. Wine reviews for the average wine drinker. No pretense, no snobbery, no numerical ratings. And here's our host, Stephen Hawk.
Hello, wine fans. Stephen Hawk from Wine Nirvana here. Hey, today's topic that we're going to address is wine packaging. What kind of containers does wine come in? And everybody's familiar, obviously, with the glass bottles that line the shelves of wine shops and liquor stores. And over maybe easily the last 20 years, wine in a box has grown in popularity. But that's not the only way to package wine. And an alternative that has seen huge growth recently is wine in cans. Basically, they're just like beer cans. There's a little bit of background here in that obviously bottles have been the primary choice for centuries, and that then has a long history and tradition. And consumers have grown to associate a bottle's size, shape, or color directly with the quality of the wine inside. There's even a move that I have detected of higher end producers are using heavier glass bottles. These bottles can be as much as twice the weight of a standard glass bottle. Now, that doesn't improve the wine any at all, but when you are considering that bottle for purchase and you hold it in your hand, that weightiness has a distinct but subtle psychological connotation of higher quality. Now, there are some other alternatives are bottles, and also bottles normally have a cork. Again, that's the tradition. You'll also see them with screw tops. There are oddly shaped bottles, even non-glass containers like plastic, and of course boxes. These have been relegated to lower quality products by and large, but in some sectors that is beginning to change. Now, speaking of screw tops specifically, about 20 years ago, a Swiss company called Stelvin introduced a screw top closure engineered specifically for wine bottles. It has the company offers a number of finishes and colors, even liners in the screw top, and Stelvins are becoming increasingly popular. Even some very high-end wines are using that. There is controversy, though. Traditionalists will say, particularly with reds, a metal cap is a problem because what you want is a very small amount of air transfer through a cork if you're going to age a red wine. So that debate goes on. The advantage of the screw cap is you never get a bad cork. The wine will never oxidize. And then there are some other alternatives. There's Tetra Paks. These are these aseptic aluminum foil lined paper boxes. Wine on tap. That's kind of unusual. Bag in a box, of course, and individually sized plastic pouches. And then, of course, what I really want to talk about today, aluminum cans. Although wine in cans seems to be a recent phenomenon, like a lot of things that become popular, it actually has a much older history. Metal canning technology in general was developed in the 1930s, and of course we've been consuming all kinds of beverages out of cans ever since. The obvious soda, juice, beer, etc. And as early as 1936, the Ocampo winery began packaging a California Muscatel in steel cans under its Ocampo brand. And another early pioneer was called Vin Tin Age, which is a terrible pun, but there it is. Anyway, these early efforts failed with drinkers, and it's presumably due to the fact that these steel cans were unlined, and the wine interacted with the metal, leaving them with a distinctly tinny aftertaste. There was another push for canning in the early 80s when the Taylor, California Cellars, a huge producer. I mean, they're like they're a behemoth like Gallo. They tried to convince their airline customers to serve the wines they were supplying in lightweight single serve aluminum cans. The cans had moved to aluminum by then, but small glass or plastic packaging went out instead. These are those ubiquitous little 50 milliliter airplane bottles that we've all seen if you've taken a flight or even visited a liquor store where they sell them as convenient samples. So regardless of what specific type of package a wine comes in, it's got to serve three purposes. First, it's got to protect the wine, primarily from oxygen and light exposure, both of which can damage wine quite quickly, less so from bacteria or other contaminants. Second, it obviously has to contain the wine, so allowing it to be transported and consumed. And finally, any package, both for information and certain legal reasons, has to convey information about what you're drinking. And this includes the alcohol percentage, the name of the wine, where it comes from, all kinds of information on a wine label. Cans specifically do an excellent job of protecting wine, especially ones that are young, fresh, and fruity, with little to no oak contact, low to moderate tannins, and intended for consumption shortly after purchase, because they absolutely prevent any intrusion of oxygen or light. It occurs to me there's a before we get into more detail on cans, there's also another alternative wine packaging that I'm familiar with, and it is basically a glass tumbler, probably held. I'm going to guess and say it held 4 ounces maybe, and filled with wine and sealed with a flat aluminum cap that had a little not a pull tab, but a little tab on it, so you could lever it off and pop this thing off. And the idea behind this was that because once the cap was off, suddenly you had a delightful glass of wine. What could be more convenient? And so there was a guy. I don't know if he pioneered this concept or he was certainly trying to promote it. He showed up on a Shark Tank episode one time. You'd have to research that one. And so he pitched it to the sharks, who all decided that they thought the packaging idea was tremendous, and they could really see that because of that convenience that would take off. Hated the wine, very low quality. So apparently, this guy was a wine producer and not a packaging company or a packaging guy. So he refused to divorce the wine from the package, and so the sharks all took a pass. So even though that packaging format failed, people are always looking for convenience and portability. And canned wines, and these are cans that are much like beer cans, are really filling a need. And like I say, cans have they just exploded, particularly over about the last 5 years. Suddenly they seem like they're everywhere. Now, canned wines still only account for a very tiny fraction of the market. Right now, it's about 1%, but it is one of the fastest growing forms of alternative wine packaging. And like I say, for a long time, the can was seen mainly as a convenient way to deliver cheap wine, but these days, the same change in acceptance that occurred with screw caps is happening with canned wine, because higher quality producers are getting into the game. Just to show you the kind of surge in popularity the canned wine has demonstrated in the last 5 years. In 2015, canned wine sales were $6.4 million. Just a year later, that figure had more than doubled to $14.5 million. And then in 2017, it jumped to $22.3 million. In 2018, sales were $69 million, which is the equivalent of 739,000 12-bottle cases. And all of that is up from just $2 million in 2012, and that compares with a 5% increase in boxed wine and a 14% gain for wine in Tetra Paks over that same period. It's amazing growth. So, what has contributed to this enthusiasm among wineries and consumers for canned wine? Obviously, cans offer convenience and portability. You can take a can a lot of places where you can't take a bottle, like a swimming pool or Lollapalooza, whatever. Producers are also turning to fun, dramatic, and creative labeling, which enables them to position themselves as modern and forward-thinking, which is of particular importance to Gen Zers and millennials. You gotta stay hip, More substantially, aluminum is 100% recyclable, resulting in a very small environmental footprint. And due to lighter weight and shipping and handling, reduced breakage, more efficient stacking, cans versus glass also yield savings to producers of approximately 15 to 20%, with some claiming even as high as a 40% saving. And we're all familiar with glass recycling as well, but I saw a recent study that aluminum is always valuable and is always recycled, and glass, even though it's recycles as easily, the market demand fluctuates much more, and sometimes glass leaves the recycling center and goes to the landfill if the price isn't right. So there's that. Now here's a small detail, but an important one in cans, and that's the lining that coats the inside of the can. And that was always the interaction of the wine with the metal was always the bane of canning, and led to all those false starts. The pioneer in the lining technology was a winery in Australia called Baroque, and in 1996 they introduced a can coating system trademarked as VinSafe, and they secured a patent on that. So, for whatever the reason, even though they were the very much the pioneer, no U.S. producers used that VinSafe technology, but instead rely on cans and linings developed by the giant Ball packaging company. And because wine is acidic, it's less so than beer and more so than cola. Eventually, that polymer coating can degrade. So it's another reason, as if we needed one, to enjoy canned wine as soon as possible. And then another factor, of course, we can never forget the internet, can we? It's full of selfies of consumers with colorful and creative cans. The fun and festive nature of many of the designer cans inspires the whole range of social media blog entries, hashtags, and pictures of friends enjoying wine together. Fascinatingly, currently there are 350 wine in a can products, and they're available from 125 wineries in 13 countries. So this is not a little niche thing going on here. And in Japan, wine in cans is very popular, in part because selections are widely available in vending machines, of all things. Now, this is a convenience that will likely never be seen in the U.S. market due to our century-old hangover from Prohibition. Can't let the kiddies have access to the wine. And quite a number of canned sakis are also offered there. There are three specific and prominent pioneers of the wine in a can in the wine in a can movement. One of these, actually the very first one, was Francis Ford Coppola. This is the same Coppola who directed the Godfather trilogy. He actually recreated the wine and can category in 2002. His daughter Sophia was going to have a poolside wedding, and again, glass not very welcome. So he decided to put the wine he made for her wedding in cans and serve it that way, which he did. It was a big hit. It's still for sale, and he named it after his daughter Sophia. He has another brand called Diamond, and he cans that one as well. So he has been joined by producers big and small. Ian J. Gallo, that powerhouse, cans their Barefoot and Dark Horse labels. The Dark Horse is better than the Barefoot. This is a strange name for a winery, but the Infinite Monkey Theorem of Colorado and Texas. I think they can all of their wines. The Precept wine conglomerate's house brand. They're also very big in boxes. And there's a company called Field Recordings, and they can their wine under the Alloy Wine Works label from California, and the Union Wine Company of Oregon, which sells its products under the Underwood label. So a guy named Andrew Jones founded Field Recordings, which was a single vineyard project out of Paso Robles, California, in 2007. He released his first can wine, Fiction Red, under the Alloy Wine Works label. Get it? Metal, alloy. In 2014. It was really intended as just a one-off, but he got a very positive response from buyers. And so he pursued the format to the point that 40% of the winery's production now is canned. He offers three core varietals. There's a Chardonnay, a Pinot Noir, and one that's called branded Everyday Rosé. And they do frequently release unorthodox limited edition offerings, mainly for the Canned Wine Club membership. And yes, there's a Canned Wine Club. These sometimes become permanent additions to the portfolio. Here's what Jones had to say. It was about meeting people where they wanted to be. They wanted top quality, terroir-driven grapes, treated the same way they would be for the bottle, but in a smaller, endlessly recyclable package that could be consumed anywhere. Jones cashed out by selling the company to Vintage Wine Estates in 2019, but he is still involved, and he reports that his production line is currently 20 times what it was when he launched, and that was in 2014. That was just 6 years ago. The first canned wine that I really became familiar with, and this was only about a year ago, is called Underwood. This is a line of wines made by the Union Wine Company out of Oregon, and they started canning in 2014, starting with a Pinot Noir and a Pinot Gris. But it has since expanded. Their offerings have expanded to include a still rosé, white and rosé sparkling wines, a white blend, and wine coolers. And today, 55% of the company's 448,000 case business is in cans, up a remarkable jump from just over 100,000 cases in 2014. Again, in 6 years, they've grown 500%. It's amazing. Yeah. Union Wine is owned by a guy named Brian Harms, and he credits the success of the Underwood line to their affordability and lack of pretension. In fact, Underwood they put it on the back of the cans now. They have a hashtag called Pinkies Down. So I think there's an Instagram and a Facebook account, both that are Pinkies Down. So Harms had this to say about his wines. With cans, we embrace the artistry of making great wine, minus all the fuss. And we've remained committed to our original mission of bringing craft quality and affordable Oregon wines to people's tables for everyday occasions. He says that the appeal of these canned wines is that they have an implied ready-to-drink quality, which allows them to lend themselves to the can better than other styles might. And it's certainly paid off for him. So, to wrap this up, there's one final thing I want to share about canned wines, and that is most cans are either a 375 milliliter, now that's a half bottle of wine, or 250 milliliters, and that's the size of a Red Bull. Interestingly enough, of course, we always have these complicated alcohol laws. 375s can be sold individually, but the government prohibits individual sales of 250 milliliter cans. They have to be sold in 4-packs, which I have to say, wineries they're not very happy about that. Personally, I prefer the 375 milliliter size when I can get it, because I know it's a half bottle of wine. So I can get that in my head as to exactly how much wine I'm going to consume. You can get cans in 187 or 500 milliliters, but you don't see those very often. And an individual winery will not offer a variety of can sizes. If a winery decides to get into canning, they pick a size and they stick with it. That's all they use, across the board. Now, I do have a few recommendations. I can recommend just about all of the Underwoods, especially their sparkling wine, which is branded Bubbles. The Dark Horse Rosé is good. Butter Chardonnay is good. Butter is the name of the winery, and that wine does have an atypical oaked, an oaked profile that is rather atypical for canned wines. A company called Creamery has a nice Chardonnay, and a company called Cupcake Winery, they have a nice Chardonnay. They actually have a whole line of cans. They've also moved very aggressively into canning. So that's it. Wine in cans, perfect for summer. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. That's it for now. See you later. Bye.
This has been Wine Nirvana. To learn more, visit us at www.winenirvana.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.